Well, welcome everybody. Clerk, will you go ahead and call the roll?
Agent,
Here.
Hallie Burton,
Here.
Amy Keefe,
Here.
Nash, Willits,
Here.
Woodings, here, all present.
Well, thanks. Doug's already ready to go. Welcome, Doug. We've got Doug Holloway to talk about program update for Parks and Rec.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you this afternoon to talk about, just give you a quick update on some of the cool things that are going on in the recreation division of Parks and Recreation. As Madam Mayor and council members are aware, we have 6 different divisions within our department. You hear mostly from our park side, from the most part, and activities happening there when we're opening up new parks and cutting ribbons on playgrounds and opening splash pads and things like that. So today I just wanted to give you an update on some of the exciting things that are happening on the recreation side of our business, which we've always referred to as kind of the fun group that gets to work with kids and play things and play sports and have really a good time on the park facilities that our park side maintains. So to kick this off, Madam Mayor, council members, this is just a quick snapshot of some of the facilities that we have in our inventory that this programming occurs in. We have our Fort Boise Community Center, the Dick Eardley Senior Center, both of our golf courses at Warm Springs and Quail Hollow, Idaho Ice World. We have 6 outdoor pools, 4 that will be open, as Madam Mayor, council members are aware, this summer, and 4 that have been open, actually only 4 of the 6 since 2020. I would add here, we do have a 7th pool that the city of Boise owns, which is located inside of the West Boise YMCA. It's referred to as the Boise City Aquatic Center. The YMCA maintains, schedules, and that pool for us, but it is open to the public. So it is in our inventory from a public access pool and an indoor one as well. We have 10 school-based community centers. We actually had 9, and I'm happy to announce that as of a couple of weeks ago, we finally got enough personnel in place that we were able to open the Hillcrest school-based community center, which was one we've been trying to open since the fall of 2022. And so, fall of 2021. And so it's been about 18 months in the works trying to get enough folks hired that we could get that one open too. And so happy to say it's open and is at capacity with the number of kids we're serving at Hillcrest. And it was at capacity day 1. Zoo Boise is one of our other facilities, obviously, and then the Jim Hall Foothills Learning Center, as well as the Boise Urban Garden School, where we also have a number of our activities. So just a quick, just a snapshot in time to get an idea of how well things are really going this 2023 season. So we started registration on April 17th. And on that day, we actually collected $415,000 in revenue just in that one day. And to give you an idea of our previous high was in 2022 last year, and that was at just under $280,000 that we collected in that one day in total revenue. The next highest was in 19 pre-COVID, and that was, I believe, like right around 180,000. So you can see there's a trend that's occurring from a revenue perspective on the popularity of what we're offering through the recreation division in Parks and Recreation. We also took just a quick snapshot of a 10-day period from that 17th to the 27th, and we did 602,000. And again, our previous high, same snapshot last year, previous high was 462, 482. We also did 7,120 people that enrolled during that 10-day snapshot. Again, our previous high during the same snapshot last year, which was our high, we had 5,822. So you're seeing a trend occur here. And we're going to have a slide. It's a few slides down that I will address some of the reasons why I believe and our team in Parks and Recreation believe that why that trend is occurring. And this is the best news, in my opinion, is in that 10-day snapshot, we have already distributed $126,000 worth of scholarships. And so we are hitting the number of kids that we need to be serving. On that day 1, just as an anecdotal number, we did $89,000 just on that April 17th, $89,000 in scholarships. So we've got We do have still have a great need out there. And why I love that number is, one, as I mentioned, we're hitting a need that we think we need to hit. But there's been this trend in our city, as you all are aware, where the thought process, and this is coming from numbers and data we're getting from the Boise School District, that their Title I numbers are going down, which is Title I is 50% of free and reduced lunch for a particular school. Those numbers continue to go down. Any day now, we'll see a new report in 2023 on what schools still qualify and what those percentage numbers look like. But the word we're getting from the district is those continue to go down, and their reasoning is that folks can no longer afford to live, in the city of Boise, and so they're moving to other locations, and therefore their Title I numbers are reflecting that. But our scholarship numbers continue to reflect a different story, that there still are folks, children in need in our community that are taking advantage of the programs that you all are endorsing and offering, and are being, that need is being met through our scholarship program. So even though we are seeing what's happening in the schools, we're just not really reflecting that at this point in the programs that we're offering, which is really something that we are happy to see. We also have started in working closely with the school district and looking at how we should be translating our scholarship applications. And you see we have 5 different languages now that we are utilizing. So we do have a very large refugee population that takes advantage of our programs and activities, which is great. And I think part of that is because we make it so easy for families to be able to take advantage of the scholarship program. Having said that, we still have guidelines, and we haven't changed those. So we're using the same guidelines today we've used 5 years ago, and we're still seeing a fairly robust scholarship number that is needed. This is our summer play camp program is really our flagship summer. This is our version of daycare for working parents during the summertime. Extremely affordable. It's about $100 a week to have your children in an all-day camp. We have 8 camp locations that we offer this program. 3 years ago, we had 5, then it went to 6, then it went to 7, and then we added an 8th to try to keep up with the demand. This program is completely sold out for the entire summer, and we have wait lists at all campsites. I will announce today we do have another park location we've identified. We're still about 8 to 10 plus employees short of getting that open. We're hoping we can make that announcement in the next few days to the next week, so that we could get that open, and then take our wait list would be our first folks that would go to that camp. And so as we've talked about wait lists, and council may be asking, why aren't we offering more than to accommodate the wait list? And we'd love to do that. And it really comes down to, because these programs pay for themselves. So it's not a matter of finances. It really comes down to being able to get the bodies, be able to hire staff to be able to open additional locations. So we would have opened this 9th one and done it immediately had we had the staff to be able to do it. So fingers crossed that we're going to get to that at some point in the next several days. So environmental education is one of our top priorities in our department. Most of this comes from our open space and clean water, open space and foothills division. And if some of you may be familiar with Boise Urban Garden School or BUGS, that is actually part of our department. It is housed in our foothills and open space division. In 2014, we brought Boise Urban Garden School into our fold, and so it's part of a city program now. It operates out of Cumba Park, which is at Eustic and 5 Mile. And if you see here, we are doing quite well in our environmental education. We all of our outdoor preschool program, which I believe we started that 4 years ago, are all full for the summer, as well as our day camps, which is our first year offering that. So 2 of those 3 camps are currently full. We do some adult programming in environmental education, and those also are really popular. I just list them there so that we know that we offer things for parents too. But most of what we do in this is really for our preschool through 6th grade. Boise Urban Garden School, you see the programs we have there. And again, all of those are pretty much full for the entire summer. So we believe when we started this, we really hit a nerve with our community and with the schools that we're serving as well. In this program, there is a real desire to start educating our children at a very young age how to take care of their environment here in the city of Boise. Adaptive recreation, we do have a very robust therapeutic and adaptive program. This program has grown significantly over the last probably 10 years. Again, it is at a point where getting qualified staff to be able to work in this program is really hindering us a little bit on how much further we can grow. Because this is the only program of its kind that is open to the public and is cost effective in the entire Treasure Valley, we draw from the entire valley. So we see Meridian, we see Nampa, Caldwell. We get participants literally from all over the Treasure Valley because of the uniqueness of the program that we offer. And you can see the participation numbers have gone up significantly just year over year from 22 to 21. All the programs that we run continue to be really popular. Wheelchair basketball, our rugby program, which I didn't list on here, is also really, really super popular. And our social club, this is something that we do, and this is like dinner and a movie. This is like dinner and a bike ride on the Greenbelt with our participants, very popular. And this is an interesting note. Out of 270 days last year, we offered 399 programs. So we were doing something every single day, plus some throughout the course of the year. So again, we'll do more. And once staffing starts to become a little more available in our community, it's just not there now. And these conversations obviously are citywide, but they're also industry-wide. And there isn't anyone I talk to in the community that's having the same kind of issues that we're having. But I'm pleased that we're still able to offer the level of service that we offered pre-COVID. We're back to that now in spite of the staffing considerations that we have. These are some of our business operations. I threw adult softball in here. Adult softball is required to recover all of the revenue it is needed in order to run the program. So they have to generate enough revenue to get all the direct costs to operate the program back, which is basically the same model we use for all of our adult programs, whether it's art or any other program we offer. The golf course and ice world operate a little bit differently. They're required to also bring in enough revenue and enough profit that they also can cover all of their major repair and maintenance capital costs as well. So if we need to buy a new Zamboni at Ice World, the Ice World profits have to have the money to be able to pay that. And again, Madam Mayor, council members, you're aware we operate the golf courses under that same model. We just moved Ice World into that model this past year. So we're in our second year. And by the end of this fiscal year, we should have in our reserve account, so we get to maintain our profits at the end of the year to be able to pay for capital costs and all those other indirect costs that some of our other programs do not have to pay. We'll have just probably over $1 million in that account after just 2 years at Ice World. So the model you all are aware of, we really went to a model at Ice World where we're focusing on our programming from September or October-ish through the end of April. And then what we do the rest of the year is we really just rent ice. We don't do a lot of anything else during the course of the summertime. And that has cut our costs significantly. And then we've just really, really promoted our Learn to Skate program to get skates on children all through the city. And you can see by the numbers, it's just, we've grown those programs significantly, and it's showing in our, certainly in our bottom line. But to see those kinds of increases, and these are all year over year. So we're 32%, learn to play hockey. We're at 75%. And it always helps when there's either the Idaho Steelheads are doing really well, which they did really well this year, or it's a Winter Olympic season or Winter Olympic time. And all of our programs really benefit from that. And then I learned to skate, because you can't play hockey until you learn to skate, then you have to go learn to play hockey. So to see those kinds of numbers increasing has been amazing for us. And then the rounds of golf, you can kind of follow that trend from 2019 pre-COVID through where we're at today. So we've gone from 71 to 77,000 rounds combined between both Quail Hollow and Warm Springs. When we took over Quail Hollow, as a fun fact, we were just over $1 million in revenue there. So it's almost doubled since we've had that course since 2013. Now, unfortunately, our expenses continue to go up with that revenue, so we're not generating that kind of profit at Quail. But it's great to see the rounds of golf continue to go and the revenue continue to increase at Quail as well. So this is a slide I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go right to the last bullet point, since I mentioned why are we seeing some good things happening. And one of the things that we embarked on a year ago is we revamped just the online interaction that you have, the activity guide. We've created a better guide online that's more usable, more accessible, and more user-friendly. And that certainly has helped. Our accessibility per your direction and per the mayor's vision of making, creating a city for everyone in Boise. Our goal is to create accessibility in everything we do and however we do it. And I think that the fact that we have done everything that we can and continue to do more to make programs accessible to everybody. You saw what we're doing with our scholarship program and translating into 5 different languages. We go out to the schools and we talk to counselors, we talk to teachers, we talk to principals. We have these waiting lists because we're going above and beyond what we have normally done in the past to really make our programs accessible to the public, because they are so affordable and because we have a robust scholarship program. And I would be remiss for not saying that the quality of the program, we're always going to say, is best. We think it's the best in the state of Idaho. It's best in the country. And so because of that quality of program, people continue to bring their children back to our play camp, to our art camps, to all of the other programs and activities that we offer. And, a great example of that is when 3 of the 8 play camp sites filled up within 5 minutes of registration. And so that tells us we're doing something, right on the quality end. And then affordability. We continue to be the best bargain in town based on that quality and based on that accessibility for our customers. This is just a quick snapshot, just some of the free things that happen in the course of the year. So we have all our splash pads and the Ann Morrison fountain will all be turned on Memorial Day. We'll be cutting a ribbon, Madam Mayor and council members, on that Ann Morrison piece. The movies Under the Stars, we're back now that we're out of COVID and got all that going on. We'll be doing free movies at Julia Davis Park, 1 in each of those 3 months, June, July, and August. Our fireworks celebration, again, at 4th of July at Ann Morrison. We do our free meals partnership with the Boise School District. We're doing that at 4 park locations again. And so the district provides the food and our team provides the distribution of the food at those park locations. We do our annual kids shopping event every December, where we take kids from a couple of our community centers to Target for a 1-day shopping event. And then we do our Life Jack loaner program in cooperation with St. Luke's, that provides us funding to buy the life jackets, and Idaho River Sports stores them and also fits them, and they're free for anyone that needs a life jacket. And so based on what's happening on our river now and how serious these flows are, it's a good time for us to start promoting safe use of our waterways by letting folks know that we have free life jackets and they are available now. And we'll start that giveaway as soon as the weather warms up and we got more people out on the waterways.
I will just flag. Thank you, Doug. I didn't realize you were done. I was at Quinn's Ponds this weekend and they're packed and people were on the water. So I know that we're encouraging people not to be on the river, but just timing wise, people are out there a little earlier than I expected. So we might want to get those life jackets out earlier than expected.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, council members, yes. I think that, and I don't even know if we had the loaner stations up and available, but we will get on that. We had some discussions about it today about the timing, and we're going to hit a little bit of a cold spell coming through the weekend, but it's going to warm back up again. And with the river, and this happened again 4 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it was when we had the high river flows. We just got slammed in all of our waterways, particularly that complex. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Doug, thanks for the presentation. Just a comment. I was one of those parents that participated in the camps during summer as a working parent, loved it. I was also one of those parents that missed the deadline, thought of it too late, and things filled up. So, whatever we can do to give parents more options. It's a high quality program. My children loved it. It was such a great opportunity for them to continue learning during the summer. And I'm just so pleased that we at the city of Boise continue to do that. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Willis, thank you. And that's why we started that registration in February. So if we can't accommodate, then we've got enough of a runway where parents can find something for their kids still to do, whether it be with Parks and Recreation or whether it be in another program in the city. Got plenty of time to try to find that, but stay tuned, because if you're on a waiting list, I'm feeling really confident that we're going to have another park that we're going to open up inside the very close to downtown.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Doug, along the lines of what Councilmember Willett said about needing more capacity, you said one of the issues is a staffing issue, just bodies to fill the staffing roles to support these programs. Is it that the positions exist but are vacant, or that we need more positions to do the work, or both?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajan, we have a certain number we need to hire to fulfill all of the programs that we have to offer. We're not even quite there yet. We still have a number of vacancies right now. Those are positions we need to even fill some of the play camp sites we have right now. But
And these are seasonal these are
correct.
seasonal
Yes, these are
positions.
we call them temporary employees, and they will work
Oh.
through the summer.
They're looking for high school
And they're the
kids.
hardest to hire right now. We're not having a lot of difficulty other than our janitorial positions in hiring full-time employees. It's really the seasonal on our park side, and then the temporary employees on our recreation side and they're mostly college and high school students. And we're just not getting that volume of applicants that we received pre-pandemic.
I see.
And so the positions are there, and we will add, though, more positions on top of what we have, council member, to accommodate those on waiting lists in everything we do. I didn't even touch upon a lot of the week-to-week camps that we have, both in terms of our art program and in our rec program as well, which are weekly camps all day for kids to be in, that we are also bulging at the seams with waiting lists. So again, getting the personnel to be able to offer more of those. We want to do that. We want to offer more. And it's not an expense. It's actually, everything covers its own costs. It's bodies we need.
Understood. Thank you. That makes
So if you know, folks, you got parents, you've got friends that have children, 16 above. We've looked at 15 and 14-year-olds to fill some slots too, but we're hiring, and I don't think we could get enough. So
Well, and last year, if I remember correctly, because these are seasonal employees, and now suddenly, like I saw it with my own kids, high school kids have a ton of high paying options these days. And so last year you put together a pay structure to incentivize some of those students or young people to come and get hired, stay through the summer. Are you doing something similar to that?
yeah, Madam Mayor, council members, we are, and we've worked closely with our HR team to continue to expand the pay scale.
Great, good.
The problem we get into is then our full-time employees that are at the lower end of the pay scale, you start having compression where we have a part-time person making as much as somebody who's full-time. And so there's some issues that we get into, but they've worked great with us in getting it expanded. And we did our play camp and our 10 school-based community center. We got pay raises for all of those, expanded the pay scale, not raises per se. It's just, we now have more flexibility. We can hire, instead of at 14, we can hire at $16 an hour. And that makes a big difference in a high schooler's life.
Yeah, it does.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Doug, I just want to commend you all. Like Councilmember Willits, my kids have been through many, many City of Boise camps. I think some of the best are out at Bugs, which is just so much fun. It's a fun place. It's a fun park. It's a great place to pick them up from, because then they can play on the splash pad afterwards. It's just a fabulous facility, and your staff is amazing. I mean, from the pools to camps and art, it's always been a fabulous experience. So I want to thank you. And I see a member of the media in here. So if you want to help us get the word out about some seasonal positions, we'd really appreciate that. And I'll help try to get the word out too with folks who have high school kids who I think need something to do in the summertime. I think that's a positive, productive way to give back to the community. So thank you.
Thank you, council member.
Right. It's really exciting to see the use of the programs that we offer. And as you pointed out, the growth in scholarships that we're able to offer too. So thanks for the
Great.
presentation. Looking forward to seeing lots of young Boiseans having tons of fun in our parks with our great Parks and Rec staff.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, hello, Kyle. Welcome. We've got Samantha Beck as well with us. Welcome. Now we're going to go through, this is really exciting work. I saw a presentation early from the whole team that was part of this process, from folks in the clerk's office to agencies, other agencies to childcare providers. And so we're going to have an update on how we're trying to make this easier and faster to license in-home childcare facilities. And I'm glad you're here.
Thanks, Mayor, council members. My name is Kyle Patterson. I'm the Director of Innovation and Performance. I'm here today along with my colleague Sam Beck to present about, as the mayor mentioned, some work that we recently completed in collaboration with several city departments, as well as Central District Health, to really transform our processes around in-home childcare licensing. Before I talk about that, though, I want to share a couple of quick updates on some other projects that I'm really excited about. One is the Innovation Challenge, which is a project that we piloted back in the summer and fall of the previous year, in which we invited staff to submit creative ideas that advance city goals. And the idea here was really that we really believe great ideas can come from anywhere in the organization, and we wanted to provide a pathway for those ideas to be heard by leadership. I thought it was a great success. We got a ton of engagement from staff. There were 673 ideas submitted, almost 500 staff participated, which is like 25% of all the staff in the city, which is amazing. Out of that pool of almost 700 ideas, department selected more than 50 ideas that they wanted to implement. One of many great examples is the compost cam screenshot you can see on this slide. As you all know, the city offers free compost to residents at a couple of sites, but often residents don't know, are kind of worried that they'll show up and there won't be any compost left. So they often email or call our Curbit staff to ask, hey, is there compost actually there? One of the Curbit staff came up with the idea, well, why don't we put just a camera up at the sites? That way residents can see in real time, any time of day, whether or not there's compost there, and they know before they go out. It's a much better resident experience, right? Because they don't have to call or email and wait for a response. And it also saves staff time because hopefully they'll receive fewer of those calls and emails that they need to respond to. So just a great idea that I don't think would have been heard without this innovation challenge. Another project I'm really excited about, I've been working on for the past few months, is a housing data portal, which is intended to be a public-facing website to provide transparent access to data around housing. And I've been fortunate to work with a few dozen community members who are really interested in this area. We did some focus groups back in January to get some feedback on what folks would actually like to see on a public-facing data portal. And also those folks more recently have been really great at providing feedback on drafts of this as we continue to iterate on it. We're really close. We're almost ready to publish it, and we're aiming for early summer to publish that. But let's talk about the thing I'm actually here to talk about today. So process innovation. Process innovation is really about taking frontline staff who operate and manage a process on a day-to-day basis, giving them some really simple training and tools around process improvement, and then really just getting out of the way and empowering them to find process innovations in their work. And we really focus on sort of small scale innovation, so low cost, low effort innovations that are within their control. And maybe individually they won't have a big impact, but if we get a lot of staff doing a lot of process innovation, it can have a really tremendous impact. Denver's a great example of this. They were the first city to create a process innovation program 10 or 11 years ago. And you can see the numbers there over that 10 or 11 year period. They have saved the city and county of Denver more than $60 million, $60 million. So it's an approach that we know works. We've seen it be effective here in the city, and we use it around childcare. We focused on childcare for this because one, obviously, is really highly important to our community. For example, I couldn't be here working today or presenting to you if I didn't have access to high quality childcare for my daughter. And I know so many of us face that same challenge. And there's often a dearth of childcare opportunities out there, a lot of long wait lists. We focused on in-home providers specifically because we've just really heard from the community that that process is specifically pretty challenging for folks. And that's exacerbated by the fact that these tend to be smaller providers. They may not be as experienced navigating city processes as larger centers. And also in-home providers are more likely to be bilingual or multilingual. And so there's a language barrier there as well that we wanted to address. And so we felt like this is a really important area to make our processes easier and streamlined. And I do want to be clear, none of the work that we're doing is sort of watering down any sort of health and safety requirements for folks. It's really about streamlining process so it makes it easier for people. So we assembled a dream team of city staff from clerk's office, code enforcement, planning and development services, mayor's office. And then we were also really lucky to get somebody from Central District Health, the person who oversees the inspectors who do health inspections for childcare facilities. And they were just, this group was really amazing. They were doing their 40-hour-a-week job and this on top of it And they did really tremendous work. None of the impacts you're going to see were possible without them. And at the risk of sort of sounding hyperbolic, like there really is something magical that happens when you can get these folks who do this work every day, who really care about customer service, who know the process forwards and backwards, and just let them take a step back and give them some time and space to look holistically at the process together and what they can change. You get some really wonderful outcomes. And oh geez, there's a lot of animation here that I wasn't expecting. We really wanted to center this process around the voice of the customer and make this a really customer-focused process. And so to do that, we invited actual in-home providers to come talk to the group about their experiences around childcare licensing, what worked well, but also what was challenging, what the pain points were. We also invited folks from a couple of organizations, Idaho Stars and Janus, that have clients that serve folks who are in-home childcare providers and have a lot of knowledge of the experience through that to share their experience with us as well. And in fact, I think today we have a couple of folks, Lisa Just from Idaho Stars and Olivia Manley from Janus, who were sort of part of this process, really gave some invaluable feedback. No pressure, Lisa and Olivia, but did either of you want to say anything?
I just want to say how excited I was to be a part of this and how I wish more cities would, because we work with, Idaho Stars, we work with the entire state of Idaho, and I really like the fact that you put customers, like streamline this process, ask for our input, ask for everybody's input. I've been hearing these nothing but positive. So we're really proud that we got to. We're really excited to see.
Thanks, Lisa. And for those who are online and probably couldn't hear you, Lisa was saying that we were great. So thank you. Olivia.
And it's just exciting to see the city accessible and inclusive process. This is really.
Yeah, thank you both. Okay, so we did all of that work. And one of the things that we found is, not surprisingly, the process is a very long one. And I know there's a lot of text on this. You don't have to read it. I'll just walk you through briefly what this process looks like. So imagine I'm an in-home provider. First, I have to go to the Planning and Development Services Department. I have to pay a fee, fill out an application, provide some documents. They review all of that. Hopefully everything goes well. I get a thumbs up. Then and only then, I go to the clerk's office where I pay a fee, I fill out an application, provide some documents, get fingerprinted. They review everything. Hopefully you get a thumbs up. Then and only then, you reach out to Central District Health to schedule an inspection, pay a fee, fill out an application, do all of those things. And hopefully that goes well. And then and only then do you reach out to our code enforcement division to schedule a second inspection. Hopefully that all goes well. If you do all of those things, then you finally get a license. So 94 days is a long time to wait for a license. And you add on that anybody for any reason can appeal PDS's decision about your permit. And if they do that, that adds an additional 90 days. So now we're talking about potentially a 6-month process in which this person who wants to provide these really important services to our community can't do that. Not surprisingly, there are also a lot of fees involved, as you could tell from the previous slide, right? So the total cost of getting a license is about $700. To be clear, this isn't all city fees. There are some fees from Central District Health and other places, but in total it's $700. We definitely heard from community members that the total cost is challenging for sure, but one of the bigger challenges is really just that all those fees are scattered around. You don't get visibility at the front end of the process that it's going to be $700. You just know PDS is charging me $230, and then I get to clerk and they're charging me another $105, and then I get on and on like that. And so that was definitely an area where we wanted to improve. So I'm going to pass it to Sam in a second to talk about the specific process innovations we made, but I just want to show you this group identified some really fantastic process innovations. If we're able to implement all of them, and we're all well on track to do that, we think that by doing so, we can reduce the time to license by more than 60 days. So take it from 94 days down under 30 days, which is fantastic. We think we can reduce fees by $257. So from like $700 to like $450. And again, we're not reducing fees by just saying we'll charge less. We're reducing fees because we've streamlined the process, which means it takes less staff time, which means we don't have to charge as much money. And then just improving customer experience. And I just got to say, like, I see this and it kind of blows my mind. This is a huge difference to this process if we can get all of this work done. So now I'm going to invite Sam up. Sam is a fellow with the city for 2 years as part of Bloomberg Philanthropies and Harvard University. She just got her master's in public policy last year from Harvard University, and we're lucky to have her here. And she actually was the one, I'm taking a lot of credit for this, but she was the one that actually did the work, who led the work, who managed the work. And so she's going to share a little bit about some of the specific innovations we did.
Thanks, Kyle. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time today. I'm really excited to be here talking about this work. And thank you to Lisa and Olivia, too, for being here and making the time out of your day on kind of short notice. So we really appreciate it. Before we get started and before I jump in, I advance like that? Yeah. Okay. Before I jump in, I just want to say on a personal note how amazing it's been to have this project be sort of one of the first big things I've worked on in Boise. All of the frontline staff that I worked with were amazing, and it was so cool to just watch people day in and day out working across department boundaries to make something better for our community members. And it made me feel really lucky to be here in Boise for my fellowship. With that, I'll jump in and talk about 4 specific changes that our group recommended that we think will have a huge impact, and some of which already are having an impact on applicants for in-home childcare facility licenses. So as Kyle mentioned, before we started this work, it could take 94 days, and that's just an average. It's not even like a maximum. It's kind of like an average middle of the road estimate for getting one of these in-home childcare facility licenses, which is a really long time. But we're pretty confident that with these changes implemented, we can reduce that to 25 days for all licenses from a license for 1 child up to 12 children for an in-home license. And one of the simple but impactful things that we can do to make that happen is to stack steps. So when our group got in a room together and mapped out the process, we realized that a lot of what was taking time for these applications was just waiting. So applicants were submitting one thing and then waiting to get it back. For example, their planning and zoning application, waiting to get it back before they were able to go to the clerk. So by allowing them to start everything at one time and submit all those different things to different groups, we'll just take a bunch of that waiting time and do it concurrently instead of consecutively, and that will save a lot of time. Another time-saving measure that our group recommended was to take the Central District Health Inspection and the Boise Code Enforcement Inspection and collaborate across our groups to just make that one inspection before the facility opens. Once the facility opens, those inspections will remain unchanged. What we realized was that the 2 inspections were mostly duplicative, and the city of Boise looks at the results of the Central District Health Inspection anyway. So to go back out and check through the exact same things that they'd already checked 10 days before doesn't make a lot of sense from a resources or time perspective. And we're able to maintain those really high standards that Boise has for licensing, even if we do this. So we think it's a no-brainer to try to collapse those inspections. And so work is going on right now to try to make that happen. Next, you heard Kyle talk about that planning and zoning application that has to be completely done before applicants can come to clerk to do their background checks, pay their clerk's fee, and do that entire second application process. And in addition to kind of taking a long time, that's just confusing, right? You walk into City Hall thinking you're here to apply for a childcare license, and clerk tells you, oh no, actually you have to go upstairs first. So what we're recommending is to collapse those 2 applications into one application with all of the same information on it, and just have PDS review the relevant parts of that application sort of internally without forcing the applicant to do 2 separate applications. And through doing that, we're really excited. We'll be able to reduce some burdens in noticing requirements on the part of the applicant, as well as reducing, actually eliminating that PDS application fee. So that goes from $231 to $0. And that's where that $257 cost saving comes from, which is actually a 37% reduction in total fees for a childcare license. And the city of Boise isn't even responsible for 100% of the fees that we're charging. So we're really doing our part to try to reduce the financial burden on people who are providing a really important service in our community. And finally, applicants are required to do a fingerprint background check, but their entire families, anyone living in their home, their entire household is also required to do that fingerprint background check, which is a really important safety check that we have in place for the city to issue a license. Unfortunately, it can cause a bit of a bottleneck because every single member of the household has to come to City Hall in person between 8 and 5 in order to get fingerprinted. And it can just take a long time if someone has a full-time job that doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Sometimes it can be difficult to get those family members into City Hall, and it can take a few weeks. And so the clerk, we as a group sort of brainstormed around this issue, and the clerk has been so amazing. And they're now they started a few months ago. They're open until I think 6 p.m. on Tuesday nights, so people can come in after work if they need to do that. And that also has an added benefit of helping childcare providers, not only childcare providers who are applying for a license for the first time, but childcare providers who are reapplying for their license for the next year, renewing their license. It will also help them because they obviously are running a childcare facility from 8 to 5 every day. And so many of those providers, when we talk to them, we're actually having to close their facility for an afternoon in order to come to City Hall and get fingerprinted. And so hopefully this will allow them to come after work instead, or just to ease that burden a little bit. And we're actually the clerk is hearing anecdotally from childcare providers that they're really excited about this change. And a lot of them have already been using that service. So we're really excited about that. And with that, I will turn it back to Kyle to wrap up.
Thanks, Sam. So a couple of upcoming council decisions I wanted you to be aware of as it relates to this project. One is, as Sam mentioned, we're trying to collapse Central District Health and Code Enforcement inspection into one inspection. In order to do that, we need to make some minor code changes in language just to make it clear that Central District Health can sort of be a designee to do that inspection for us. Legal's working on that right now, along with DFA. They're doing a lot of great work, and we expect something to come to you in summer with that information. That would we would ask for support in that decision. And then second, to change the way that PDS is involved in the process would require the modern zoning code to pass. There's some pieces in there that are really important to streamlining that process. So as you well know, that's coming to you in June as well. But that completes our presentation. I'd be happy to stand for any questions y'all have.
Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Kyle. It was really cool meeting with Sam kind of at the beginning of this process and learning what she was interested in. And it's nice to see how that went, that people were brought in and really appreciated the process. And I think that it gives us a good ground for future improvements to some of our processes. So that's great. I just had a couple of questions. And you already answered one regarding notification to neighbors and kind of that coming out when we do the zoning code update. So we got that one. I had a question about fingerprinting. So people's fingerprints don't change on a year-to-year basis. Do we keep those digitally? Is there a way that people don't actually have to do the fingerprint portion on a yearly basis, since that's not something that necessarily changes?
Madam Mayor, Council President, that's a great question. We actually talked a whole lot about this. We're trying to come up with some way around it. As I understand it, there's some federal regulations that limit the amount of time the city can hold somebody's fingerprint on record. So while their fingerprint doesn't change, we can't just keep it on record and then run it again in a year. We also explored, like, there are some background checks you can do that aren't connected to a fingerprint. So could we say every other year do a non-fingerprint one so folks don't have to come down? Because that is a big challenge for folks. But there was just some questions about the quality of that. You know, if somebody used a different name in a different state, then that wouldn't show up. And so we're still open to other ideas folks may have about ways that we can ensure that, you know, we're doing this safely, but also making it easy for folks.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Kyle, my question is also in the same vein. I've been fingerprinted for a number of jobs that have required that, and I've used a third-party service. Is there, maybe there's a federal requirement that the city can't retain these records, but is it the state that requires the city to hold this and the federal government says we can't hold it that long? Like, is there some type of workaround that could be found so that we don't have to do this, or that a third party could?
Madam Mayor, council member, it's a really great question. It's a pretty complicated legal situation, and I won't pretend to have all of the answers, but my understanding is that it's a federal government requirement that we can't. Other states have found a way around it. So Florida, for example, has sort of like a fingerprint clearinghouse so that you can just get fingerprinted once and use it for any sort of need that you have. That required some level of state legislation to make happen. So that'd be great to see here. And I do also think there's some other states where there are private companies who do this work. So sort of they fingerprint you, certify you are who you are, right? They can maintain those records. And then in the next year, when you're coming up for recertification, the city could reach out to this organization, right? And so you're maybe paying a fee to this organization. Something like that would be great. We're not aware of any of those companies operating in Idaho. You need like physical locations to actually fingerprint folks. So if either of those change, either at the state level or private companies coming to Boise, it would be awesome to be able to make that change, but I'm not aware of a way to do that now.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I find it very interesting that most of our heads have gone like straight to fingerprinting. There's got to be a way to do this. And so I'm sure we can all pepper you with quite a few ideas, but I hope that one of the takeaways is that if there's a way for you to come up with ideas, that there's probably a council here that would be very willing to explore ways to help make those ideas possible. So certainly willing to see what we could do there or talk with folks at the state to see how we could support something like that. Mostly, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the folks in the private sector and certainly the nonprofit sector as well, especially the folks over at Janus and kind of helping overcome some of those barriers with an organization that's already established so much trust in the community and bringing those voices and the nuances of these together. So to both of you, thank you for being involved with this process. I think it makes it a lot easier and better for council to know that we've really engaged with a variety of stakeholders to make sure that we've done this right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just want to follow up on the question that I didn't ask because it was already answered as we're going into the zoning code hearings. I think it's really important to kind of put an exclamation point on that this is the type of in-home business that we're trying to make it easier to provide to the community as part of the rewrite of a zoning code. And childcare is super important, you know, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for childcare. And so I think that just like really honing in on what those opportunities are that are presented in the zoning code rewrite is important. And this is just such a fabulous example. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you and the team too. I'll just say, first off, I came for a presentation I referenced this at the beginning where everybody that had worked on this was together. And it was really fun to see, as I think you mentioned, the cross, or maybe Sam said it, I can't remember, the cross collaboration of all the different offices, all the different agencies, all the different organizations that came together to work on something that is really important. I mean, many of us wouldn't be here if it weren't for childcare. I think back to, when our kids were little, even before there was this, big demand and growth that our city's seen, it was hard to find a spot. And, the spots that we had, they started only in June. So then there was like, if you didn't have your baby timed right, you had this lag time. And so our son was in-home childcare waiting until he could go elsewhere. It was a great experience. It was such a great experience. It was really hard to find. And I had a lot of people that were helping me figure out where to look. And I mean, when we think about this, it's 60 out of 90 days. So that's, over 60% reduction in time. But percentages aside, that's 2 months where kiddos could be cared for and people could be back to work. And that's a lot of time for families. That's 2 months of a paycheck. It's a lot of time for businesses that need the 2 months of work. And of course, it's income for the folks that are providing the care. So that's a lot of days. And, the money is, as you said, is 37%. So again, for somebody that's trying to start a fledgling business, as we seek to make it easier for them, both in siting it at home, so maybe they can stay home with their own kids while they care for others. And then, coming up with the resources to do it, this cuts quite a bit of cost out of it too. And so I just think that the more we can do this and streamlining things, cutting red tape, pinpointing, where we use innovation to meet the needs of the community as quickly and flexibly as possible, the better off we all are. And really appreciate that this was one of those topics that was elevated, and because of the really hundreds of people within this community that this will ultimately impact.
Thanks, Mayor.
Oh. All right, public service announcement. Next Friday, what is that, May 12th, is Childcare Provider Appreciation Day. So if you've got kiddos in childcare, please appreciate your childcare teachers. And with that, we will break for dinner and we'll be back here at 6. Thanks, everybody.